Guten Tag, it's me, WNT. It's been a busy couple of months for 5 stars, and maybe my favorite back-to-back events for 5 stars ever. It's given us a cool new archetype, a unit that's in the running for the strongest 5 star in the game, a really fun take on Abjurers of all things, and a return to an old favorite subclass in Centurions. They have something for everyone here, and I think there's a case to be made for building each of them. And since half of these are welfares, you probably have at least half of them on your roster already. But to figure out if they're right for you, well, let's go over them together.
Ammo is expensive, so there will be no warning shots.
Cairn is the gacha unit from Unrealized Realities, and the first primal protector that applies nervous impairment. This is already setting her up for success. I mean, it's a defender subclass that applies its element directly, bypassing res and defense. And it's the best element in the game, and one that's especially well suited for a defender. While it doesn't do the most damage of any element, it prevents enemies from attacking, which is a great survivability tool for a defender to have in their back pocket. She applies this nervous impairment in 2 ways, the first of which is with her talent. That talent applies 10% of her attack as nervous impairment every second to all enemies that she's blocking. This might sound familiar. In fact, it's almost the exact same as how our still only 6-star primal protector, Yu, applies his element. However, it's worth noting that as a 5-star, her version is a bit less potent. For one, Yu's talent does other things as well, but even beyond that, his percentage is slightly higher and is working off his higher attack stat, an attack stat that is further boosted by his skills. Cairn does not get this, and on its own, this talent does not apply its status all that quickly. But as I said, it's only 1/2 of her elemental application, so don't take that as a knock against her. Her mod is also weird. It's not actually out yet here on Global, but will be with the next CNY event, so I'm gonna go over it anyway. Its base trait is fantastic for her, increasing the elemental application she deals by 15% when blocking enemies. Since her talent requires her to be blocking enemies already, and well, she's a defender, that's what they do, this condition is really easy for her to trigger. And once she does, it's just a free boost to all of her elemental buildup. Given that that's a big part of both her damage and her survivability, that's a big deal, and I absolutely recommend picking it up the second it arrives on Global. However, after that first level, it's a bit harder to recommend. See, it brings that talent up from 10% to 12%. Now, that is significant. That's 20% faster application, even more than what she gets out of the trait effect. And it stacks with that trait change, so it should be great. However, like I said, that's only half of her application. While it improves her talent application by 20%, it increases her overall application by only 10%. In practice, with her main skill, this lets her apply the status less than a second faster than she would with just level 1 against elites or regular enemies. And the stat increases don't boost her attack either, so they don't factor into this at all. As a result, while it does make a difference, and while applying her status effectively is very important to her, the overall difference from level 1 to level 3 isn't something I think you'll really notice all that much. Speaking of things you won't notice, her S1. Don't build it. It increases her max HP by 130% for 30 seconds, but it doesn't do anything for her elemental application. And since that's key to her survivability, this skill ends up not only being worse offensively, but also defensively. Her S2, on the other hand, is what makes her work so well. She gains a barrier equal to 90% of her max HP, with that barrier lasting 10 seconds. And deals 80% of her attack as arts damage and 10% of her attack as nervous impairment buildup for 10 seconds to all enemies in the 8 tiles around her. Also, while the arts damage, elemental damage, and barrier last for 10 seconds, this skill does not have a duration, and instead immediately starts charging all over again. Considering that it only has a 22 SP cost, she only ever has to last 12 seconds between activations, so the cycle is clear. Activate skill, survive enemy attacks with her barrier, apply the status, survive to the next skill while the enemies can't attack. And because her application rate isn't affected by enemy defense or res, This is incredibly effective no matter which elite or regular enemy you encounter. Plus, she also has that arts damage to help her shed trash bombs quickly without needing to wait for the full elemental buildup. She can struggle a bit more with bosses, where she will not be able to apply her status within that 10-second window. But given how most bosses' big damage skills are on a timer, with some late skill management, she can still use her barrier to survive a lot of them while relying on her regular defender tankiness to survive otherwise. Anyway, last 5-star roundup, I was pretty high on Vitochki. She has a quick rotation and access to a unique mechanic to help her survive that cycle. I still really like her, but Cairn is basically that, but way better. In fact, it's really weird that we got both of them so close together. They work on basically the same concept, but Cairn gets elemental damage, paralysis, doesn't have a target count limit, has an even faster rotation, can be healed by other units, and costs 10 less DP. And with the barrier, there are plenty of situations where even though she's not a juggernaut, she'll still be able to sustain herself without healing. She is seriously one of the best 5 stars I've ever used. To bring up my usual chart, she is incredibly strong, with access to nervous impairment and all that implies. Her barrier and paralysis can keep her up through a ton of dangerous enemies, no problem. Her skill cycle is so fast. And that fast skill cycle makes her a really engaging unit to use as well. It's not just her stomping everything, you have to manage her, and she'll reward you heavily for your ability to do so. This legitimately feels like the most 6-star a 5-star can be. The closest thing I have to anything to hold against her is that, unlike every other primal protector we've gotten so far, she has no way of mitigating enemy elemental damage. And while that is a bit of a disappointment in terms of living up to the subclass identity, with everything else she has going for her, I can't really say that it realistically makes her any worse. But that's just 5-star number 1. So, where do we go from here?
Oh, high explosive Arknight grenade, my beloved. You'll waste away in the warehouse no longer.
Skybox is here for 2 things. 1, to introduce a brand new sniper subclass, Skybreakers, and 2, to show us that yes, pigs can fly. He's our first ranged unit that can take off, and he does so immediately upon deployment, only landing while on skill. What's more is that, while in the air, this subclass cannot hit ground enemies, meaning he will only do so on skill. Also, another quirk is that Skybreaker's attacks in the air will be single target, whereas their attacks on skill will be AoE. This might make him seem like he's a dedicated anti-air unit, but that's not really how he plays in the end. His auto attacks are fine and can help clear out drones, but he's not really going to be clearing out waves of them on his own. I mean, like most units, most of his damage is on his skill, so don't rely on his off-skill auto attacks for all that much. Instead, he's much more like a Liberator or a Phalanx caster. In fact, with Leitza being a Liberator who takes to the air, she may be the perfect comparison point for understanding him. Like him, she can technically do damage while she's charging her skill, as the lightning strikes will come down in her range. But much like with Skybox's autos, those lightning strikes aren't exactly solo clearing any waves. His talent, meanwhile, makes it so that when damaging an enemy for the first time, he'll silence them for 7 seconds. It's still kind of hard to evaluate silence effects. It's absolutely a worthwhile tool to have in your roster, but its effectiveness will vary significantly map to map, and there are plenty of options for this by now. Definitely a perk to using him, but not necessarily a reason to build him on its own. His S1 is not exactly his main skill, but it has a lot more to like about it than, say, Cairn S1. It makes it so that, on an 8 SP cooldown, his next attack will have him briefly drop to the ground and throw a bomb, dealing 300% of his attack as physical damage in an expanded AoE. I like this skill, given that he's the first Skybreaker and it'll take a bit to get used to the quirks of the subclass. Having a way for him to contribute more consistently is a nice way to soften the experience of trying him out for the first time. And a large, consistent AoE with a reasonably high physical DPH is something that can come in handy. Is he the only option for this? No, not even with 5 stars. But he is definitely one of the most interesting options. And if you want that, but to try out the new subclass, it might be worth considering. That said, because of the downtime, it's not exactly going to be winning any DPS competitions. Still a nice part of his kit, and it does get a decent amount out of its masteries. But I'd say be realistic with what you plan on getting out of it before you invest in those. His S2, meanwhile, is where he'll be doing most of his work. It expands his range, and when attacking, does 240% of his attack as physical damage, again in an AoE per the subclass's trait. Additionally, this is an ammo skill, giving him 10 attacks per skill, and can be manually deactivated. And if you do that manual deactivation after he's used half of his shots, he'll immediately fire all the remaining ammo at random enemies within his range. This is another skill really geared towards helping you get the hang of the subclass. By having ammo, you're not really punished for being off with the skill timings. I mean, if this was duration based, it'd be pretty easy just to have him up in the air doing nothing when you really need him. And then, as you get to know his kit better, you'll be able to use that knowledge to play around ending his skill early to get his skill cycles exactly how you want them. And that's not even mentioning his damage. He has over 1000 attack before the skills multiplier, so he'll be doing pretty solid DPH with those hits, letting him deal reasonably well with elites while the AoE takes out the trash mobs around them. And if you activate that 5 ammo burst, his DPS in that moment can be pretty high too. In fact, even though his S1 is a single shot nuke skill, it's his S2 that is honestly one of the most satisfying 5-star nukes in the game. His high DPH and 5 shots being sent out all at once can do some pretty wild things. And while the shots are random, the AoE helps make sure that the units you want to target still take the damage, even if they're not the primary target. It's so good that I found I was rarely letting him just spend those last shots normally, opting instead to burst fire and then start charging the next kill early. However, he's not without his limitations. While the takeoff mechanic is fantastic for survivability and getting around enemy attacks and various mechanics, that's more or less his only form of survivability. When the whole point of having this in his kit is to let you deploy him more aggressively, placing him where no other unit can go. Having those enemies and mechanics blow him up the second he touches the ground limits that significantly. And it's here that he starts to feel like a first draft for this new archetype, which, I mean, he is, so that makes sense, but it still holds him back a bit. And while his S2 is his best skill, it's also the one where you most feel this limitation. Because he can be on the ground indefinitely, he can also be vulnerable to attack indefinitely. It does have a way around this built into it, with his extended range, so you'll want to be sure to position him such that he can outrange enemies and deal with them before they get to him. But again, because you'll be wanting to outrange enemies, you're probably going to have him further back. And when the whole point of the takeoff mechanic is to let you be much more aggressive with your placements, that's kind of counterproductive. So, where would I rank him? Well, in terms of strength, I'd say well above average. I was really pleasantly surprised by how effective he is at pushing past enemy defense, and that S2 nuke is no joke. And despite the limitations, his takeoff trait does help him get around various mechanics. Plus, since you control the duration of his S2, you can make sure he'll be safe when he really needs to be. And I think this makes him a pretty fun unit as well. I really like the way he's geared around both helping you get used to the quirky subclass, and then also letting you flex your understanding of it as you get used to it. But given that you're a bit limited in how aggressive you can be with him, I won't quite be giving him a perfect score there either. Though this has me really excited about where they could be going next with this subclass. And if they add some kind of survival tool to their skills, I think it'll be an easy recommend. And with that, we're halfway through the new units. And if you're enjoying this, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. I really hope my guides can be a helpful resource for the community, but to do that, YouTube has to actually show them to people. And all of these things are really helpful with the algorithm. But back to the video. Varkáris has been probably the most pleasantly surprising unit on this list. Every other unit here is really unique and weird in a way that's pretty obvious from just looking at them, and his kit's a lot more straightforward, so I really wasn't expecting all that much. And while maybe he doesn't reach quite the heights of some of the others here, I still really like what he brings. He's a Centurion, like Blaze or Spectre, and can block and attack 3 enemies at once. He's the first one of these we've gotten in quite a while, going back all the way to the R6 5-star Fuse. And it's neat to see an updated take on an old classic like this. His talent is a faction buff for Minoan operators, and when he's deployed, they all have their attack increased to 112% when attacking enemies with an HP percentage equal or lower to their own. While you might not be running all Minos operators all the time, it's a nice buff to have whenever you do run any of them, and it works well enough with his own kit that it's a good talent even when it's only a solo buff. His mod is the Y branch, so with it, while his HP is above 50%, he takes 20% less physical damage. This works great with that talent, because him being more durable equals him having a higher HP percentage than his enemies equals him doing more damage. And with his S2 having healing built into it, he's pretty good at staying above that 50% threshold as well. The talent upgrades are less remarkable, bringing it from a 112% buff to a 118% one. If you are running the full Minoan squad, this will probably be worth considering, but otherwise you likely won't really feel the difference here. His skill 1 is an offensive recovery skill, and on a 4 SP cost, the next attack deals 135% of his attack as physical damage and attacks 3 times consecutively, much like his attack as a boss. In terms of the broader game, this isn't a hugely remarkable skill, but I like how it rounds out his kit. As we'll see with his S2, his biggest weakness there is the downtime. While I do think that's a better skill, if you'd rather invest in him further than building an entire other operator for consistent damage, or if you're maybe newer and don't have those other options, then this lets him fill that role nicely. It is worth noting, however, that unlike his S2, it has no way of boosting his survivability, so his mod will have to do the heavy lifting there, so long as he has the external healing to keep him above that 50% threshold. On his S2, his attacks deal 200% of his attack as physical damage, and recover 8% of his max HP, with any excess healing beyond his max being converted into a barrier. This barrier caps at 100% of his max HP, though it won't last forever, as he loses 100 HP worth of it per second once the skill ends. This is a really neat skill. I was going to say in spite of its limitations, but honestly, more so because of them. He is really durable on this skill. The healing from it is already a lot, but because the barrier keeps him at full HP, all of it will be able to benefit from his mod's physical damage reduction, letting it go even further. Plus, that keeps his talent attack boost active as well, letting him cut down any enemies that come his way. And it's up for 30 seconds, which is pretty good, but it's also down for 45. This separates him from other units with self-healing in a big way. Usually what you like to see from units with self-healing is the kind of role compression that leaves them not needing a medic, but it's just harder to do that when he has to last for 45 seconds without them. And yeah, that barrier persists beyond the duration, but especially with it decaying over time, on top of it also taking damage from enemies, it's not lasting for the full 45 seconds. And to be honest, that had me writing it off a bit at first. But testing it out, it's actually built to work really well with a medic. While self-healing, like you see on units like Guard Thorns or Mountain, is definitely a huge asset, when they're not the only unit dealing with a lane, or if there's an instance or two of larger burst damage that they can't handle alone, you'll still need a medic. And then either their healing or the medics will just kind of be wasted for most of the map. Varkáris, on the other hand, doesn't care if he's already at max HP when he's healing himself, because all of that will just become a barrier. And if that wasn't enough, it's not just his own excess healing that gets converted. I was really pleasantly surprised when running him alongside Perfumer Alter S1, as her massive heal would boost him deep into his barrier instantly. And to me, this is where a lot of both the fun and the utility come with him. For one, while he may not optimize a medic out entirely, his own burst healing is fantastic at things like helping compensate for your medic being off skill, other units needing healing, or maybe an underbuilt medic. Not to mention being able to optimize you down from 2 medics to 1 in a lot of high damage scenarios. Plus, it offers a bunch of unique synergies and squad considerations to work with. Passive healing won't build any barrier, and he cannot be targeted for healing once he starts accumulating it. but certain green number heals that don't care about targeting can still apply. From Civilite Eterna's Particles, to Ea Alter's Talent healing every second, to 5-star Silence's Drone. Plus, he really likes big singular heals instead of many smaller ones, as that big heal can put him deep into his barrier, while once he has that barrier, the smaller heals can be wasted. This makes him a really engaging option when it comes to team building. As well, you really don't have to specifically build around this feature, it still gives you a way to push him further if you so choose, and gives him some welcome complexity to learn and optimize around in a way that can be really fun if you're invested in him. So all in all, I really like what he brings. Yes, that 45-second wait does still feel clunky, but what you get while it's up feels worth the wait. And while he's very easy to pick up and use, he still has plenty of space for skill and knowledge expression as you get more familiar with how he works.
Oh, today's scent? It's cardamom.
If Cairn is the best operator on this list, I think Perfumer the Distilled is my favorite. After they made Haruka totally busted to try to sell people on an abjurer, I wondered where they'd go from there. This was not what I expected, but let's get into her kit. Perfumer the Distilled is an abjurer, meaning she attacks enemies off skill and heals allies on skill. However, despite attacking enemies, they are not an offensive subclass. And honestly, most of their off-skill value comes not from their damage, but from the passive sanctuary effects that they all get via their talents. For Lena, that talent grants 16% sanctuary to all allies in her range with an equal or lower HP percentage to her. This is, I think, probably the best version of this that any of the 5-stars get. The percentage is decent, especially with her mod, as we'll talk about in a sec, but her condition for applying it is really flexible, which has not always been the case for her contemporaries. Beyond that, she gets the Y mod, which lets her attack or heal 2 targets at a time. If you build one mod from this video, make it this one. This is huge for both of her skills, helping compensate for the breaks between healing on S1 and letting her buff more allies on S2. Like, I cannot stress enough how much you need to craft this mod. At least level 1. Any levels beyond that are good too, as they bring her sanctuary up to 22%, but you've got to at least get level 1. As for her skills, her S1 heals a target for 500% of her attack and grants them plus 25% defense for 10 seconds. This defense boost doesn't stack, instead having its duration refreshed, but that's perfect since the 9-second SP cost lets her keep it up permanently. Plus, she can hold 2 charges, and at M3 she drops with a charge ready to go. While her S2 is definitely her marquee skill, this one has really impressed me as well, and might be something of a sleeper pick. But to explain why, I have to back up a bit. See, healers are boring. They're important, but they just don't have as many ways to play them as like damage or other utility options. At the end of the day, most of them are either an AFK heal or a burst heal, just with different numbers attached, rather than getting special statuses or damage types or whatever. So despite being important to have, they don't really affect how you play all that much. Using Gracebearer versus Spectre feels much more distinct than using Breeze versus Paprika. But Perfumer S1 is a very welcome change to this. It has comparable HPS to a lot of regular medics, but the way it's bunched up into her skill activations leaves you playing around her sanctuary and defense buff in a really satisfying way. The time between activations is rarely enough to actually ruin things for you, but the threat of it, the possibility of it going wrong, actually makes a healer exciting in a way I've never seen before in Arknights. So while her S2 absolutely has a lot to like about it, and is an incredibly unique skill in its own right, don't sleep on this one either. Though again, I'll highlight just how important that mod trait change is for her here. Without it, healing one ally every 9 seconds can feel pretty rough. But bringing that up to 2 allies makes it much more effective at keeping your squad healthy. But anyway, about that S2. It increases her attack speed by 50, doubles her sanctuary effect, and every heal buffs the target's attack by 30% for 3 seconds, but also causes them to lose 1% HP per second. And it's also a heli drop skill, lasting for 30 seconds after deployment. This one's a lot of fun too. While the buff only lasting 3 seconds makes it sound like you'll be running out, the slight HP loss it inflicts lets her keep healing them, letting her refresh the duration no problem. Plus, with the increased attack speed, she can keep topping them up, and the doubled Sanctuary effect helps keep them alive for long enough to deal their buff damage. Though it is worth noting that they do have to be damaged for her to apply the buff to them in the first place. I quite like this skill, though I've seen a lot of comparisons to Warframe being used to write it off. But I think that misses that they do completely different things. Warf is all about buffing one ally as much as possible with a shorter duration. Perfumer, meanwhile, buffs less, but does so for multiple allies with twice the duration. So while a 30% attack buff is less, a 30% attack buff for all of your DPS units can be incredibly impactful at the same time. So it's less about one being better and more about where each of them is better. If all of your DPS is coming from one unit and you don't have to worry about their survivability, then yes, absolutely go with Warf. But if you're relying on more units to take out a threat and need the extra Sanctuary to keep them alive to do so, then Perfumer will be your ideal option. And while yes, needing to be redeployed is a significant downside, it's not like Warf doesn't have a downside either. We're all just used to it by now. Her buff target is random after all, and having a healing unit positioned specifically so that all but one of your units is outside her range isn't always the most practical thing either, especially when it can significantly limit the effectiveness of her SP talent. Again, not to say that Warf is bad, she's not, but rather that I want to highlight that they're different units with different strengths and weaknesses, and neither of them invalidate the other. Though back to Perfumer's mod, it helps her significantly when it comes to keeping the buff up for multiple allies, as healing 2 targets means refreshing the buff on 2 targets as well. So again, it's really key to making her skills work as intended. So as for her ranking, I think she's really neat. She's not without her downsides, but all of those downsides are perfectly crafted to make her incredibly engaging to use, and don't keep her from being effective either. While she may not be nearly as strong as Cairn, I still think she totally pulls her weight in a squad, and she gets top marks from me in terms of fun, which again, as a non-Harmacist medic, is incredibly uncommon. If you like quirky units or are just bored of regular healers, I highly recommend you build her. And that's it. 4 new units, and I don't think there's a single easy skip among them. But let me know who you're building, or who you might already have built. But I've kept you long enough, so thanks for watching, and thanks to my channel members Pusa15, Lasat, Apparent Angel, Shali, and Lena. And Auf Wiedersehen.